Hello everyone! For today's drawing session, I decided to draw another image I found on Pinterest. Recently, I've been really enjoying using Pinterest for inspiration because it helps me experiment with different poses, aesthetics, and especially lighting styles that I normally wouldn't try on my own. For this particular piece, I specifically chose a reference with a really strong light source because I've been trying to practice lighting a lot more lately. I feel like lighting can completely change the mood of an illustration. So I wanted to challenge myself a little more with this drawing and see if I could make the lighting feel more dramatic and interesting. Another thing that immediately caught my attention in the reference was the cat. The character was holding one. And since I really love animals, I thought it would be really fun to stylize the cat in my own art style too. Honestly, I think adding animals into illustrations automatically makes them feel softer and more comforting. The cat also balanced the composition really nicely, so I was excited to include it in the drawing. As usual, I started everything traditionally first before importing the sketch into IbispaintX. Honestly though, the sketch and linear art process for this piece was kind of difficult because the proportions in the original image were hard to fully see. Some areas weren't very clear, so I had to estimate a lot while drawing. But if you already know my process by now, then you probably know I usually just trust the process and go in blind. Anyway, somehow things usually work out in the end, even if the sketch looks questionable halfway through. Once I finished the sketch in linear art, I moved on to coloring. This time, while laying down the skin colors, I already started mapping out where the light source would hit, so I could keep the lighting more consistent throughout the entire piece. I think planning the lighting earlier actually helped me a lot during rendering because I wasn't as confused later on. I also tried pushing my rendering more this time because in my previous illustration, there were certain elements I honestly wasn't happy with. So I treated this piece as a small redemption arc for myself. I wanted the rendering to feel cleaner, softer, and more intentional overall instead of just randomly placing shadows and highlights. One thing I experimented with was changing the linear color in areas where the light directly hit. Instead of keeping the lines dark everywhere, I changed those sections into a soft off-cream color. It's honestly a pretty small detail, but I think it really helped make the lighting feel stronger and more natural. Small changes like that surprisingly affect the overall atmosphere of a piece a lot. I also had a lot of fun rendering the cat, because it added such a cozy feeling to the illustration. The fur texture was especially fun to work on since I got to experiment with softer brush strokes and highlights. I think the cat ended up becoming one of my favorite parts of the whole piece. Overall, I'm genuinely really happy with how this illustration turned out. It was really fun to make, especially because I got to practice lighting more while also learning new rendering techniques along the way. I feel like every drawing teaches me something new, even if it's just a small improvement. Honestly, this drawing also made me want to redraw some of my older illustrations someday just to see how much I've improved over time. That's all for today's drawing session, Flooflays. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my art. I'll see you guys again in the next video. Goodbye.